How to cover hyperpigmentation and discoloration in an instant. So you are actively working to get your hyperpigmentation and or your discoloration in check, right? And if you need some tips, stay tuned in this video because I will have some resources for you to check out. But you still want to be able to cover things up without it looking super obvious and cakey. Whoa, that transition back to bare face can hit you a little something like, whoa. Here at the Style and Beauty Doctor, we value your time. So this video is broken down depending on the experience that you want. So if you're looking for just something super simple to cover up the discoloration and move on, I got you. If you're looking for a little bit more color correcting, you want a highlight and contour, you want a full face, I got you in this video as well. Many of these topics we'll discuss, including the best concealers and the best foundations for discoloration. And if you look in the description box, there will be timestamps listed below so you can easily navigate this video. Thank you for tuning into the Style and Beauty Doctor here on YouTube. If this is your first time here, I am Danielle. Welcome, grab a seat, grab a snack. We are going to get into lots of information on covering hyperpigmentation and discoloration in an instant. So first things first, we want to discuss where is the discoloration, because the thing about people of color, we are uniquely colored. We are typically not one whole uniform color from head to toe, and not even one uniform color typically in our faces. A lot of us wear it darker around the perimeter of our faces, lighter in the center. Some of us have discoloration that we've had since we can remember in certain areas. For me, it's like my natural contour, which kind of connects with my sideburns, making me look like I have mutton chops. I also have some natural discoloration underneath my eyes and on my eyelids. Some of us get it around the mouth. We are uniquely colored, and that is a wonderful, beautiful thing about being of color. But sometimes you want to try a different look. If your discoloration is here underneath the eyes, that might be a different color where your skin is. Let's say if you had some discoloration or some dark spots on your chin. Now we're not matching the concealer to the discoloration, we're matching it to your skin, your actual skin. If you have a significant amount of discoloration, the foundation or the concealer that you use might look really, really light, but you're matching it to your skin, not the discoloration. The next thing to take into consideration is how much of a look are you going for and how much discoloration are you covering. So if you just have like maybe your under eye area is darker, but the rest of your skin is pretty much, you're liking how it looks, then maybe you just need a concealer underneath your eyes and then you can set that with powder and go on with your day. If you do have more of a significant amount of discoloration on your face, I would say, now this is what I would say, and I kind of feel like, typically you on the nose when it comes to things. I would say that trying to use a concealer if you have significant amount of discoloration on your face, you might as well just use a foundation, because using a concealer if you have a significant amount of discoloration, you're going to be using so much product. It's just like, man, just go ahead and use a foundation. Now, if you're going to be using a foundation, and we're going to get into foundation and concealer types and brands and things like that in a few, but if you're going to be wearing foundation, you put your foundation on first after you've done your skincare and any kind of prep that you're doing to your skin. And then from there, you're going to assess, okay, do I need to cover up anything else? And in that instance, then you'll go in with a concealer for the areas that maybe the foundation didn't fully cover. Now, if you've done that, you put on your foundation and your concealer and you're still seeing some discoloration, maybe next time you want to try a color corrector. The thing with color correctors, not everyone is going to need to color correct, and it can get a little messy and tricky when you're color correcting. So my attitude is always like, why are you adding more steps in products that you don't necessarily need, right? So not everyone is going to need to color correct. If you do find yourself needing to color correct, here are a couple of steps. So first of all, the color of the color corrector that you're going to use. Since we're covering discoloration, you want something that is in the orange family. The color of your color corrector is going to depend on the deepness of your skin. So if you're someone with a lighter skin tone, you're gonna go for those lighter oranges. And as the deeper your skin goes, the brighter and deeper the orange color corrector is going to be for your skin tone. And then the deepest, richest skin tones are probably gonna use something that looks more on the red side. So here's an example. These are from Danessa Myricks. These are Color Fix mattes. So a color corrector doesn't necessarily have to say color corrector on it. Just needs to be a pigment that has some good coverage, because, and we'll talk about coverage in a second. Just needs to be a pigment that has some good coverage and doesn't have like a really shiny or a sparkly kind of finish to it, because then otherwise it's like, buy discoloration, but yes, still draw more attention to it. So this is Carrot Top, and this is Primary Red, and this is from Danessa Myricks Beauty, which is now at Sephora. So happy for Danessa and all her successes. So these are products that you can use to color correct as well. Be very, very careful when you color correct. Like, color correcting is not for the faint of heart. Start out with a tiny amount of product and then build up more if you find that you need it. Okay? Because if you put too much on, it's going to be extremely hard to cover that up on top. Because if you put a color corrector on, you are definitely going to have to put on a foundation and or a concealer on top so that it blends in your skin, because obviously your skin is not orange or red. You may even want to try setting the color corrector with a little bit of powder, so that way it's not moving as much when you go to put your foundation and your concealer on, because what's gonna suck is if you put a color corrector and then you go in a little bit too quickly with your foundation, and as you're applying your foundation, you're also taking off your color corrector. Now let's get into the ins and outs of concealer. Now I'm gonna show you a quick demo if you're someone with some under eye discoloration and you just wanna kind of cover that up without having to put on a full face of makeup. Now, first of all, when it comes to concealer options, you definitely want to go for something with medium to full coverage. Do not waste your time with a light coverage concealer. It is not going to be pigmented enough or concentrated enough to cover your discoloration. And you can use a small amount and then build up if you need a little bit more. That is going to be able to cover your skin a lot better than, you know, wasting your time with something that's light coverage. So I have a number of favorites that I have in my rotation. Some of these were things that I bought, some of the things that brands sent to me in PR. Lately, I have really been loving the Estee Lauder Double Wear Radiant Concealer. I use shade 6C, which has a bit of a warm undertone, which is great for underneath the eyes. Now, when it comes to concealer underneath the eyes, if you have any kind of texture, any kind of fine lines, wrinkles, anything underneath your eyes, do not go for a full matte coverage concealer, because what's going to happen, that is going to probably settle into the lines and it's going to look very harsh, especially if you're someone where you're just putting concealer on and not putting anything else on your face. Get something that has a satin or a radiant finish, because a very matte concealer is going to be hard to pull off because our skin doesn't naturally have a very matte finish to it. Also, liquid or cream concealers are probably best when covering discoloration. Some people might be able to get away with a powder concealer, but also powder concealer ranges don't typically come in an array of shades that are gonna fit, you know, people of color. Another concealer that I like to cover the discoloration underneath my eyes, the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer. I use shade 6.5N. I also love the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I use shade Cafe in this brand. Recently, Lancome sent me their Tint Idole Ultra Wear Camouflage Concealer. This one is shade 510 Suede. Start off with a small amount of it, and then if you find you need a little bit more, then you add a little bit more. But this is really full coverage, but still has a really pretty finish. And then I'll go through some more concealer options. I just want to kind of get through this demo so we can, you know, move on. Now, you may need to prep your under eye area if you have some texture underneath here, fine lines, wrinkles, that sort of thing. Or if you find that your concealer tends to settle or it doesn't last very long, you may need to prep your under eye area. Consider using an eye cream to prep and moisturize the skin underneath your eyes. Another thing that you might want to look into is, especially if you find that the concealers settle into your fine lines and disappear before the time's up, you might want to get an under eye primer. There are a couple of brands that sell those, or even an under eye wrinkle filler. So usually it's something that's like a silicone base that you can put underneath the area, and then that way the makeup doesn't have, it just doesn't stand a chance to settle in. Now this is if you just want to put some concealer underneath your eyes and call it a day and move on. So I'm going to be using the Estee Lauder Double Wear Radiant. And we're just gonna dab a little bit there. I have discoloration on my eyelid too, so I'm gonna dab a little bit there as well. Use your preferred beauty tool. I'm using a dampened beauty blender that I wrung out. And then we can just dab that underneath there. Now you want to blend in a way that there's no line of demarcation. So you don't want your eye to look like you can see the line of concealer underneath there. So you want to make sure that you blend really nicely. You don't have to get it all over your face, but you may have to kind of go a little bit outside, like your immediate under eye area. And see, that covered very nicely. And you see how that has a nice finish that mimics my skin? If I use something super matte underneath there, it would be a lot. Now, the Dior concealer kind of looks and works similarly. So I'll show you how the Lancome looks underneath my other eye. So again, this is very concentrated, so just a little bit goes a long way. I would start with a little bit first and then kind of see if you need a little bit more. See, that was just like a small amount, and you see how that's already like spreading underneath there? That right there, that's as much of the concealer that I put, and it was able to kind of like cover that much. So a very little bit goes a long way. Now see, I always have where there's always like a little bit of discoloration here that I always forget about. So like I said, you can just go in and put a little bit more if you need it. It's better to add a little bit more than to put too much on, because if you put too much on, it's very hard to bring it down without having to take everything completely off and starting from scratch. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that looks good, I love the finish, but I would set your concealer with a little powder, because what happens is you go on throughout your day, you sweat, you produce oil, you know, the elements. It's not going to look like this all throughout the day. So I would set it with some powder to kind of keep it put so that it's less likely to transfer and less likely to budge and move around. I'm just going to take this Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder. This is in the Translucent Deep. Whatever setting powder you love, just make sure it's something that is somewhat close to your skin tone. I'm just going to take a little dab of that, and then we're going to just lightly set that concealer with some powder. So that is one option. So if you're someone, and I get some comments sometimes from men who say we can't wear makeup, and it's like, have you never gone on YouTube, Instagram? Like, men can wear makeup, okay? Makeup is a gender neutral territory, but this is something like you're not looking to, you know, be overdone. You just want something super natural and you're just running out to run some errands. You know, this is something that you can do very quickly. Me, I pretty much like to do the most sometimes. I either do the most or the very least. So if I'm going out to run errands, I just don't put on any makeup at all. I let my discoloration and everything just be out and free, because I feel like the second I try to put a little bit of makeup on, I'm not going to put on a little bit of makeup. I'm going to go overboard. So I just don't even put anything on at all. But if you're someone who likes a little bit more, let's quickly show you what that would look like. So here I'm using the Cover FX Total Cover Cream Foundation in shade N110. This gives a really nice natural finish, but it covers pretty decently, as you can see here in the before and after. I do have some additional discoloration that it didn't address, so I'm going to take that Estee Lauder Radiant Double Wear Concealer and get those few areas. Then I'm gonna set that with the Charlotte Tilbury matte powder. All right, don't mind this. I'm just trying to lay my edges a little bit. I've done my eye makeup. There's probably still some like eye makeup videos, older eye makeup videos on this channel, like if you were interested in like how I do my eyes. Now, when you've gone and put on your foundation, typically what happens is your face is now all one even color. But that's not very natural, because remember I said that we're uniquely colored. We're typically darker around the perimeter and lighter in the center of our faces. So we want to bring back some of that dimension into our faces that we kind of lose when we even out the complexion. Now there are a bunch of ways that you can do that. One, you can take a bronzer and then just kind of around the perimeter of the face, kind of like warm it up. And you know, in the hollows of the cheeks, kind of give you a nice like warm kind of like bronzy glow. And thankfully there are many brands that have bronzers for deeper skin. And if you check out the Instagram page, Cocoa Swatches, they feature a lot of the makeup, actual swatches of the makeup on deeper skin, so you can check that out if you want some more options. Now, the other way to add dimension back into your face is through highlighting and contouring. Now, highlighting and contouring is also a way that people can sculpt and chisel the face, but it's also a way of bringing the dimension back into your face and bringing back some of that natural coloring. So I'm gonna do that very quickly. So let go. So essentially here we're adding a lighter color in the center, something darker around the perimeter to add back that dimension in the color. Also adding a little color on the cheeks via blush. I wanted to go over a couple more complexion options for you, and anything that is mentioned in this video will be linked in the description box. So for concealer. Now for concealer, these are brands that have good medium to full coverage. Remember, we're not wasting our time with any light coverage, anything here, especially if you're covering discoloration and or hyperpigmentation. These are brands that have good medium to full coverage concealers, but who also have a good shade range. So look at Estee Lauder. I like the Double Wear Radiant Concealer for underneath the eyes, but they also have their regular Double Wear Concealer that can be good for other places around the face. There's also the Too Faced Born This Way. I mentioned NARS Radiant Concealer before. Fenty Beauty has a beautiful range of concealers. It was probably one of the first times in life that I was able to go to a brand and have multiple concealer color options within the same brand family. So that's amazing as well. And from the drugstore, the e.l.f. Camo Concealer line, I haven't tried it myself, but it does seem to have a really nice shade range, so check that out. Can't go wrong with the LA Girl Pro Concealer. They have a really nice, decent shade range, as well as some correctors as well if you're looking for that. There's also the Juvia's Place I Am Magic Concealer, really great options as well. And of course the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Concealer, which I think people say is like a dupe for the Too Faced Born This Way, or even the Tarte Shape Tape. I would have mentioned the Tarte Shape Tape, but Tarte plays too many games with their undertones sometimes, so I know a lot of people like it, but if you can find your shade, then, you know, go to Tarte. Now, I wanted to share some more foundation options. Now, remember, we're looking for medium to full coverage if you're looking to cover discoloration, because we're not going to waste our time with light coverage. It's just not. Come on now. A couple of my faves, the Cover FX Total Cover Cream, the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. I also like the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Luminous Matte. Urban Decay Stay Naked is another one that I like. I really like the Maybelline Fit Me line. Danessa Myricks, which again is also now at Sephora, so happy for her, also has a really nice foundation. Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place, the Too Faced Born This Way Foundation, L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation, and I haven't tried this one, but they have a pretty decent shade range, the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop Foundation. If you're acne prone, make sure you check out my video that I did with acne experts to learn about which foundations and concealers to look out for. Super matte foundation finishes are really hard to pull off for anyone. So usually I like to go for like a satin matte or natural matte, you know, that kind of finish. And if you have dry skin, you can use some of these as well. But if you have dry skin, a lot of the brands that I mentioned also have an option for dry skin. Now, if you were trying to fake a glow on the body, honey, now that's not something that is every day unless, you know, you a runway model, who am I to stop you? There is a video on how to fake a body glow. So make sure you check that out. It covers body makeup, some oils and things like that that you can use to give the illusion of having a more even skin tone on your body. So these were great tips for covering hyperpigmentation and or discoloration in an instant. But if you are still struggling with how to get rid of it and keep it in check, I'm going to leave you here with the Hyperpigmentation series playlist. This is a series where subscribers, just like yourself, come on the channel and talk about how they got rid of their hyperpigmentation. We have people who have dry sensitive skin, people who have oily skin, people with acne prone skin, people with facial hair and ingrown hairs, and that led to more hyperpigmentation. It's a really great series to watch to get some insight and also to kind of feel a little bit better so you're not alone dealing with your hyperpigmentation. I'm also going to link to another hyperpigmentation series here on the channel that's more of the technical stuff. So a collab that I did with Dr. Alexa Stevens on some of the best actives for hyperpigmentation and stuff like that will be in that playlist, so make sure you check that out. And then there's a video on mistakes that you can be making when you're trying to treat your hyperpigmentation. So those are all things to check out next. Follow me on social, links will be in the description box, and I will see you fine folks in my next video. Bye guys.